Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode where me and Thomas are going to be talking about not making POD sales. It's the design, where we're pretty much going to drill into why your designs could be doing better or should be different. Thomas, thanks for joining me as always. How are you?
Aidan, I'm fine, thank you very much. Hello, everybody out there. And yes, the what's the big idea behind this? We get so many people. I certainly get so many people messaging me and saying, the Facebook ads, the this, that, the other. If only there was this. If only there was that. If we had this. If we had that. Maybe if I turn it sideways. No, it's not about that. Yes, of course, having correct ad setup does help sales, but you can just with a simple post engagement ad of $5-10 a day without any optimization for purchase whatsoever, you'll get sales if the design's good enough. Now, not everything will sell like that, but you can get sales like that. It might not be super profitable, it might be only break even, but sales nonetheless if the design is, see, notification straight away, people are messaging him, it's the design, I knew it. It's the design. So the number one, probably over 90% of the reason why you're not getting sales is because it's the design. Yeah. Yes, the targeting does help. So if you're trying to sell hunting t-shirts to vegans, probably it's not just the design, but as long as you're not doing anything completely off the wall like that, and you will get comments, you will get comments if you do that. As long as you're not doing anything completely off the wall like that, any target within that niche, it has the possibility to generate sales. It's the design. So what do I mean by it's the design? What are the elements, Aidan, of a great POD design? Well, I tell you, what's the worst thing that you can do? Well, there's two things, I suppose. Here we are. It's the design, but it's also how you show the design. So you could have the best design in the world, but if you've got a nice big square image to put that design on for your advert, and you put a crowd of people, the design's in the background, they can't read it, that also can have an effect. So what would you say makes a bad POD design, Aidan? What's a bad one?
A bad POD design is just if you have something targeting a certain age, but it's in maybe a younger style, that could be a very bad way of doing it.
It could be, but the breakdown here of what makes a good POD design is most designs are text based. That means that they have words on them. So if you had an image of, say, a cartoon farmyard animal, say, or a funny image, or a really beautiful image, without a design to link it, without some text to link it into the niche, it's probably not going to sell, which means that it's the text that makes the difference. Indeed, some of the best selling designs are almost all text. They could have a little bit of something else on them, but basically they're text. So if the words make the difference, then mute your phone, Aidan. If the words make the difference, then you've got to use a font, which is the style of letter, the letters, pretty much the typeface that people can read. If you're using like a calligraphy, like a handwriting font that may look super beautiful, but if you can't read it, if the A's look like E's and the E's look like A's and the J's look like F's and the I's aren't clear, and it just looks pretty, then nobody's going to be able to correctly read it. So the best fonts to use are normally sans serif fonts. That's without the serif. That's without those little cornery bits, or very small. If they have got serifs, then only a little bit of it. You want to get them quite bold. That doesn't mean just use a bold font. That means that the letter size is important, like the amount of print that you're putting on the shirt. You want to make the letters big enough, the words big enough so that people can read it. You want to fill the whole of the shirt or the whole of the product where you can. It's no good just having some little message across the middle in tiny letters. Nobody's going to see that. So you want to fill the canvas, the area that you've got, whether it's a t-shirt that you're selling or a a cushion or whatever you're selling, you want to fill that area with the message, and you want to make it super easy for people to read. So when they're scrolling through Facebook or where they're looking on the internet, it grabs their eyes, they can easily read it, easily connect with it, and then they find themselves moving through and buying it. So number one, make the text big. Number two is once you choose a good font that's readable and easy to read font. Number two is make the text big, fill the area. Number three is on the ad image, make sure that you zoom in. Facebook have now gotten rid of the 20% text rule, which meant that you could only have 20% of the advert area with text. In fact, you could always show text on a product, but you just had to show the whole product. So you can just show the top, the shoulders, and the top down to where the text ends in the ad with a nice background. So if you're doing a fishing t-shirt, you zoom right in so you can read the text on the shirt, and in the background you have a picture of a lake or someone fishing or something like that. Make sure that you've got the rights to use any image that you run in an ad. So that's key. That's absolutely key.
I'm going to add one point to your list. Grammar. I've had a lot of people saying, Aidan, why the hell is this design not selling? And there's been one grammar mistake, whereas if that was correct, it probably would have sold. And it's all that they needed to do was just to check or spell check, whatever, and just make sure it's right. And this is such a small schoolboy error, such an easy error mistake, but it often gets overlooked. And that could be the difference between a winner and a loser, right? If it just has that one spelling mistake or grammatical error.
So yes, make sure that the text that you're using, if is correctly spelt, and uses correct punctuation where it needs to be used. If you're using a contraction like can't or something, make sure that you've got that exactly right. So we have a translation service if you need help, and we don't mind validating a design. But we do see quite a few designs that have incorrect English. It's not just the grammar, but the phrasing, the wording. It's close, and obviously it is difficult to produce a piece of text in another language. That's what we're here for. We can help you with that. Now the other thing is contrast. So if you've got a white cushion, you're selling a white cushion, don't use a cream font.
All right.
Because it won't stand out. If you're selling a white cushion, then use a very dark color, so almost black or dark blue, something where it's going to stand out. Yes, you can highlight the design with maybe some hearts or some other things that would be red, but you want high contrast. So most POD products that are sold are darker colors as the product, black, navy blue, and then the text on top of them. Black works with almost all bright colors, and also with white, and it really stands out and looks good. So if you're new to this, I would say the easiest way is, okay, white cushions are good. So white cushions with black text or dark blue text, might as well be black. No reason to use dark blue unless it's super important to the design. And then dark products with bright colors. So white is obviously as bright as it gets. It doesn't get brighter than that. But if you want to make a little bit more of the design, then you've got some bright oranges, things like that. You could just look for bright colors, high contrast. And if you use two colors in the design, make sure that they complement each other.
Yeah.
So you don't want colors that clash or look odd together. You can search on the internet for a color wheel, and it will give you input the one color that you want to use, and it will give you complementary colors that will look good, scientifically proven, if you will, to work in parallel with that original color. And you don't have to overdo it. Don't use 15 different fonts in a design. Don't use 15 different colors in the design unless it makes sense for the design. There are some niches where you might want to have each letter in a different color because it's a rainbow thing that you want to get out there. But in general, as with all design, less is more. Less is more. So if with these simple text designs, you can use tools like Inkscape, a free vector image program that you can design yourself. If you're just using text, you should be able to, although even some professionals sometimes struggle with text when it's a little bit more complicated. But basically, for a simple design with the default settings, you should be able to get a simple text layout that works. So don't overcomplicate it. Keep it simple. Use high contrast. Make the text big. Use a readable font. If you were doing that, all of those things all of the time, you would be ahead of 80% of the people that are running POD campaigns. Honestly, we see tiny stuff. We see stuff with no contrast. Aidan can't sleep at night. You got to give him a break. He's looking at this stuff.
I can give you a number of examples, but it really is 90% of the time when I have a new seller, even an experienced seller, they say, Aidan, this design just won't sell. I know it's good. Why won't it sell? And it always comes down to two things. One, the design was never strong in the first place. Or two, the ad that they've put it on is just weak. And what I mean by that is like we said, they've got a family of 3, and then the t-shirt's on one of them, and they're in the distance, and then the design isn't filling the whole shirt. It's literally a brand.
Someone's holding a beer mug over the front of it or something.
Yeah, and it's like, if you think, I know we brought this up previously in previous live streams, but these people, when they're on Facebook, and like when I'm on Facebook, I'm scrolling through 1,000 miles an hour. So one, it's got to resonate with me, and it's got to be clear within 0.3 seconds. And if it's not, I'm not going to stop, and I'm not going to click.
Yeah, 0.3 seconds is a long time.
I'm quite slow.
You've thrown me, Aidan. Okay. So that's the basics. That's the basic idea behind what makes the difference between something that's good and something that's bad. The idea, the concept is important. So it has. You have to come up with a good idea. But if you follow those principles, you're going to be ahead of 80% of people that are trying to be successful. And it's the structure of the ad, the way that you're running the ad, the pixel a tiny little bit, the page that you're running to, it does have a small effect. But believe me, 90%, 95% of the reason that you're not getting sales is going to be a combination of the design and the advert rather than the ads. And so many people message me, Facebook, whatever ads they're doing, it doesn't work, this doesn't convert, I'm not getting sales, the whole POD doesn't work, how is anyone getting this? I keep testing new stuff, but they're just testing the same thing basically with different words. And the other thing is, look at the design that you're putting out there. If you couldn't give that design away in the street, then who's going to buy it? Well, I see things that you wouldn't if you were given them, if anyone was given them, they wouldn't walk around wearing. There's nothing there that would make anybody want to wear it. So you've got to think, not only does it resonate with the audience, but is it something that people would actually be prepared to put on and walk out in public, let alone pay money for? That comes later. Let's get down to the fundamentals. Could you say, if you're running into the fishing niche, if you went and gave that shirt to fishermen, would they even take it off you, or would they look at you funny and say, what are you doing? Really put yourself in the shoes of the people and think, look around, look at what types of shirts are selling. You can see on Amazon bestsellers, the kind of things that people are buying, what a wearable design would look like, and put yourself in their shoes. So if your artwork is just cut out randomly with a big white board around it, all jagged and low resolution, when it prints, guess what? It's going to look terrible because it's low resolution artwork. So that's the next part, is the artwork. If you're using artwork, make sure it's of a high enough resolution. And that doesn't mean just dropping low resolution artwork into Photoshop and making the artboard bigger so that it stretches it out. That means starting with high resolution artwork. And if you're using text, then make the artboard big enough. Text, it will be fine, but don't start stretching images. If you are using images, make sure that you've got the rights to use them, and don't use tiny stuff. If an image is on a white background, you're not going to be able to get rid of all of that white background good enough for it to print out. Just putting it out there, unless the image is huge and you're good with Photoshop and you know what you're doing, then you might be able to. But for the majority of people, you're not going to be able to do that. And you probably don't have the rights to use that image in the first place anyway, so just don't do it. people put images on, is it actually adding to it, or are you just putting an image on there because you think, oh, it's a puppy t-shirt, therefore I must put a puppy on there, and then you put a photo on there? If you're going to put something, what about a paw print? You could easily draw a paw print. What about something else, a bowl, a bone, whatever, something dog-esque, doggy?
The best example I've seen of this is someone had basically just done a black with white text t-shirt, 4 words, and it was an inside joke within that niche, nothing else. And it was like Arial font. It was super, super generic, and it sold. They didn't need to add a picture. They didn't need to add anything more. That phrase in itself did the selling for it.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think if that particular seller added anything more to it, it would have done a lot less. And that was a very, very good selling design with literally 4 words on a black t-shirt, right? Obviously, I'm not going to go into any more detail than that, but it just goes to show that if you follow just the basic principles, right, it will work.
Yep,
it has worked.
Indeed.
It will work. Works.
Indeed. So if you do add an image, make sure it's of sufficient quality, and make sure that it's actually adding something to the design. And if it's like a biker shirt that you're selling, well, if you've got a picture of, I don't know, a duck on a bike, and the duck looks like it's come out of some Disney movie, is a biker really going to be walking around wearing that? I mean, hey, maybe some of them are. There's a lot of people out there, but are they more likely to buy something with, I don't know, a heart with a dagger through it, like a tattoo style kind of thing, a biker tattoo, artwork in the style of a biker tattoo, that sort of 1950s. Anyway, I won't get into all of that, but you can look up like biker tattoo styles. That would be the kind of an image that you'd want to put on there. Again, don't put a photo of something on there if you don't own the rights to the photo. But always be careful with any biking stuff because of the manufacturer. You don't want to infringe anything. But there's so many things that are related to bikes: a helmet or no helmet, a bandana, whatever.
Skulls are always a good one.
Skulls, yeah. So, but basically, make sure that the image, everything that you put on there, should be adding to the design. So that's, if you were selling a carp fishing t-shirt, then there's no point in having a heart on it, because that's not what you're talking about. This is just, you've got to make things, you add things not for the sake of, oh, there's a bit of space over there, so I'll whack something in, oh, that fills it up. No, that's not the way to do it at all.
Yeah. Any questions, guys? Feel free to pop them in the chat and we'll get around to them. But I just wanted to say my process for when sellers reach out to me and say, Aidan, I've been trying this for a week or 2 weeks now. They'll ask me about Facebook ads and seeing if something's wrong with their setup. And they find it weird that the first question I ask is, can you show me the design? Because that is the first step. That is literally the foundation. That's why I always ask that question first. Because if the design is weak, it doesn't matter what you do with the ads. So if anyone wonders why that is the first question I go to, that's why. Because then I know if it is the ads or if it is design, and then it all stems from that. You wouldn't build a house on sand. You wouldn't build an ad targeting or a best-selling campaign on a poor design or a poor concept of a design, right?
Yep, it's all about the design. You've got to focus on the design. If it's not selling, change designs. I don't care if you spent 6 weeks designing it and that you think it's the greatest thing in the world. If you put it out there and you spend money on it and nobody's clicking the link, you're getting one link click for $16, then it's either the design or the ad. And if you've zoomed in, as I've suggested, so that people can actually read it, then it's the design. They don't want it. Yes, you could try changing the targeting once. But if you're in a niche for a while, you should know who the buyers are, what a good target is to test within that niche. So even if it was like a beer drinking t-shirt, always be careful with Facebook ads and beer. For instance, countries like Norway, you can't run anything about alcohol. There's lots of other countries, always check the policies. But even beer, which is going to be a huge niche with millions of people, you might not get any sales straight away. But if it's a good beer related design or drinking related design, you will get link clicks. You might not get sales, but you will get link clicks. If you spend $10 in the beer niche, targeting the United States, 25 to 54 with a design, and you spent $10 and you haven't got any link clicks. It's the design or the ad. And if you've got the ad right, it's the design. And even if you've got 1 or 2 clicks there, or it clicks above $2, it's probably going to be the design that's the problem, not the ad, not the targeting, not Facebook, not the landing page, not the checkout page, not PayPal, not everybody else is crazy. It's the design. And that's why it's super important to have a lot of stuff to test. You've got to have 10 backup designs minimum all of the time to keep testing. These are simple text-based designs, the majority of them. These are not Michelangelo's high art stuff. This isn't the Mona Lisa. This isn't some Turner masterpiece, some impressionist thing. This is 4 to 5 words on a shirt, white text on a black background or black product. Maybe you can add some personalization in there. That will help. Certainly if you've got personalization in there and no one's clicking, then you've got a bad design. It's you should be able to be churning these out, especially if you're working with a designer. We covered in one of our previous shows how you can come up with thousands of different ideas, and you should just be testing until you hit that big winner, and then it will stand out to yourself, and then you will know that it's the design. I know people that when they first started in POD, they were losing money on the first 50. No sales, but they knew that other people were getting sales. So they did some research. They joined a course. I've got a free Facebook ads course. You can join that completely free. But they kept going. And I think it was on their 60th or 70th sale, it suddenly took off. 60th or 70th test, it suddenly took off for them because, that's an extreme example, but still that will give you an idea of the persistence and what you need to be successful.
Yeah, and I'll throw it out there. Whenever I've tested something personally, I've shown my partner. I've said, "What do you think of this design?" Because you get wrapped up in designing it yourself or the niche. You can't. It's really good to have that outsider sort of perspective, because there's certain times I've thought this is going to be the next best one. This is the one. And I've showed it to my girlfriend, and I've said, "Would you buy this? What do you think? It's for this niche." And she just laughed at me and said, "No, what were you thinking?" Right? So it is good to get a second opinion and to think, literally, as Thomas said, put yourself in their shoes and said, if I really loved fishing, jiu-jitsu, basketball, would I buy this? Is this cool? If the answer is no, make it cool or do something different.
Indeed. People actually have to give you money for it. It's not just about coming up with a design within that niche that's got an image on it. You've actually got to have somebody out there that's passionate enough, that likes it enough to press the button. But if you get one person that's passionate enough to do that and you reach them quickly, then the likelihood is there's an awful lot more. So that's why the persistency comes in. Okay, let's wrap this up. They know it's the design. It's the design. We can help. Reach out to Aidan and Anna and Floor, our customer success managers, available all over the weekend, of course. Sorry, Aidan.
Just to throw it out there, in the description, if you're on YouTube, there's a link to our Facebook group where you can find me. If you're not sure about your design, send me a picture and I will give you an honest opinion, feedback on it, and tell you if it's a good idea, if it's a bad idea, and everything in between. Okay, so the gauntlet is set. Feel free to message me designs for me to say yes.
Aidan's here to make you successful. So people are sometimes a bit funny about sharing their designs, but if you spent money on your design and you're about to turn it off anyway, then it doesn't matter. You might as well post it on your newsfeed, post it in the group and say what's the matter with it. You'll learn more from that. Nobody's going to steal your design. It's no good. It didn't make any sales. If you post a design like one of mine, if you join our Facebook group, you'll see a design in there that sold a good amount, and you can get the design files for that. I'm giving it away. That's a different thing. Then obviously people are going to try and run that. But so what? You just come up with another idea. You can come up with 50 ideas. Some people will just whatever you put on the internet, people will be using and moving around and making their own versions of. So don't worry about that kind of thing. Aidan's not going to steal anything. He's yet to see anything. He's yet to see anything. I think that he even thinks he's great. So try and impress Aidan. It's not easy.
I've seen some great ones, but no, exactly what Tom said. Don't be worried about sharing with them, because I've seen them all, and not only that, it's literally my day job to make sure that
it's like a doctor.
You sell.
A doctor. You don't have to be shy with your designs with Aidan. He's like he's Doctor POD.
Dr. Pod.
And on that Dr. Pod, on that bombshell, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, friends, and if I may say, comrades. We will be back next week with another exciting show for you, live on Facebook, YouTube, and everywhere else that we can possibly stream to.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.
Indeed. Happy Easter.